Now look at this. This is a Jewish website. Jewish website. Okay? And I'm not making this up. And this information, I received it by Brian Dillinger. So courtesy, Brian Dillinger. Thank you to Brian Dillinger for bringing this to my attention. So anyways, I'm going to share this quickly. The Noahide laws. So the 7 commandments, which according to the Jewish tradition are incumbent upon all of humankind, Jews and non-Jews. So you see it's from the My Jewish Learning website. In the 9th chapter of Genesis, we read this. Let me just zoom in here. The 9th chapter of chapter of Genesis, we read this. God speaks to Noah and his children as they exit the ark. Behold, I will establish my covenant with you and with your seed after you. Although rabbinic texts preserve various traditions about the details of this covenant, the Talmud reports the following. Now, we're going to be dealing with a lot with the Talmud from the writings of Martin Luther, and you're going to be shocked. Some of you are going to be shocked because I'm not only going to share information pertaining to the Council of Nicaea, but also what the Jews teach according to Martin Luther. Reports the following. The children of Noah were commanded with 7 commandments to establish laws and to prohibit cursing God, idolatry, illicit sexuality, that's fornication, bloodshed, robbery, and eating flesh from a living animal. So you see, this is all in the Talmud. And in the same Talmud, brothers and sisters, they have nasty things to say about Jesus. And they allegorize a lot of the scriptures to the point that the scriptures are not meaningful. So you have it here, Sanhedrin 56a, Tosefta Avodah Zarah 8.4, Genesis Rabbah 34.8. The laws. Number 1. This is going to be reinterpreted, by the way, with the Roman Catholic Church and the Jews, and you will see why. Do establish laws, okay? Don't curse God. Do not practice idolatry. That's a funny one, because they're going to interpret what idolatry is, okay? So, already the Virgin Mary, we're seeing like the Roman Catholic Church has just recently changed its position by saying, well, stop exaggerating with the Marian apparitions. The Virgin Mary is not the Savior. She is not she's not, like a co-redeemer. Just we want to make that clear. The only Savior, the only mediator between God and man is Jesus Christ. So you can already see like the forked tongue, the double-edged tongue of the serpent. They're saying one thing on one side of the mouth, and on the other side, they're completely negating, just refuting what they just said. So they appear as angels of light, but inside it's full of darkness. So do not engage in illicit sexuality, that's fornication. Do not participate in bloodshed. Do not rob. Do not eat flesh from a living animal. Now look what it says here, brothers and sisters. Really pay attention to this. Remember, we're reading from a Jewish website giving us more information on the Noahide laws. Okay? And it goes on to state, here are the details. The prohibition against idolatry refers specifically to idolatrous worship and not to beliefs. What? See, doesn't that sound Gnostic? Doesn't sound really Jewish, doesn't it? It doesn't sound, godly at all. It doesn't sound, Christ-like. It sounds antichrist, another Christ, against Christ. And not to beliefs. In later generations, Jews had to determine, folks, whether the prevailing religious cultures in which they lived were idolatrous. Since Islam is strictly monotheistic, Muslims have always been considered Noahites. Since the later Middle Ages, Jews have acknowledged that the Christian doctrine of the Trinity was not the same as idolatry, and they also were recognized as Noahites. Hello? 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 You still believe, I'm not talking to you, brothers and sisters, but do you still believe, those of you out there trying to divide and conquer, trying to, smoke and mirrors, right, to muddy the waters, you don't think that we're on to this? And we're actually seeing that both the Jews of the synagogue of Satan and the beast, the Roman Catholic Church, are working together since the resurrection of Jesus Christ. This is the case I'm making right now. Since the resurrection of Jesus Christ, the Pharisees were already working with the Roman authorities. Remember, brothers and sisters, the Pharisees, they convinced Pilate to crucify Jesus Christ. Remember this. The same people, the descendants of Jesus, of the Pharisees, are alive today. And they're working with this apostate Christian religion we're seeing in the Vatican. The very people who robbed our heritage in Rome are working with the other group who robbed the heritage of their own brethren in Jerusalem. Rome and Jerusalem is Mystery Babylon. This is the case I'm making. And it's interesting because we see the Vatican, they want Jerusalem as the capital. But this is maybe too much for now, and we'll talk about this more next time. But this is so important because this is coming from a Jewish website. They're saying, we have no problem with the doctrine of the Trinity. I even debated a guy called, Rabbi Eduardo. Rabbi Eduardo on Standing for Truth channel. He agrees with the doctrine of the Trinity, and apparently he's a rabbi, he's a Jew, and he has no issue, with, it being idolatry. He actually says, it's perfectly acceptable. Again, here are the facts, brothers and sisters. Jews have acknowledged that the Christian doctrine of the Trinity was not the same as idolatry, and they were also recognized as Noahites. Very, very troubling, right? Very, very troubling. I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, I'm really glad that this was exposed by, Dillinger, Brian Dillinger, because this is it, brother. Absolutely. They would say we worship an idol, they can behead us for believing in Jesus. So you understand why the Roman Catholics and the Jews want us to focus on the Muslims? Do you see why they want us to? You see these apologetics against Islam? They all want us to focus on the dilemma, right? The Islamic dilemma. They want to, all of us, to just focus on this, but they don't want you to focus on the most essential points. The essential points being, brothers and sisters, and this is very, very clear. The essential points being that Jewry and the Roman Catholic Church are working together. They're united, brothers and sisters. Now I'm actually going to see some of your